Oh, I bet when Elizabeth, she forgot to put them back, I bet.
You got all your wood, got all your wood split?
Because she used this table for the meeting.
What do you got stacked in plastic? What do you got stacked in plastic?
There are agendas back there if anybody wants them to make them. Number 36, right? My secretary got her hair done by Jackie. Oh my gosh.
What they end up getting?
The last hair coming.
Not bad, doesn't it? I think we should invest in one of those. You got this. Pull right from Greenville for. No, that's probably, let me know. You're going this weekend probably? Yeah, well, you know, shit, man, that's one.
Yeah, it's.
Really?
I think it was the first tomorrow.
Yeah, we've got a few new toys. Got some new mobiles and new journals.
The stand will start with invocation.
This is Psalm 62:5-8. Find rest, O my soul, in God alone. My hope comes from Him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will not be shaken. My salvation and my honor depend on God. He is my mighty rock, my refuge. Trust in Him at all times, O people. Pour out your hearts to Him, for God is our refuge. God, I want to thank you tonight for your promise that you are a refuge, that you are a strength. And God, you ask us to pour our hearts out to you. When we look at this world, we see a lot of people hurting. And we look in our community and we see many people that we would love to help. And we just ask that you give us great wisdom and that you would help all of our city commissioners and our mayor and our support staff and our community to be able to work together for your good, God, for the good of the people here. I ask that you give us wisdom. I ask that you would give us compassion on people. Sometimes it's very easy to be frustrated with people who give us trouble. And I just ask, God, that you would help us to be the kind of people who are compassionate and long-suffering. Thank you, God, for this night. I pray that the meeting will go well. I pray for your will to be done in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If the clerk will call the roll, please. Here.
Burris.
Here.
Coleman.
Here.
Johnson. Here. Basil. Here. Peterson.
Here.
Yoder.
Here.
You have the agenda in your board packet. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Wait, can I see it? Sorry about
No,
that.
you may not.
Okay, so under existing business, we need to put, park final concept endorsement. And then we also, under new business, we need to put, calling a public hearing concerning downtown development authority.
Okay.
All that stuff kind of happens after the packet, so.
So we'll add that under existing business, the park plan, Veterans Park Plan?
Yeah, Veterans Park, final concept endorsement.
Park final concept endorsement. And item under new business being the set public hearing
concerning downtown development authority.
Ray DBA. Any other additions, corrections, or deletions? Do I have a motion to approve the amenda as amended? Agenda as amended.
So moved. Second.
Moved and supported to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Open it up to public comment. Hearing none at this time, we'll move along to the minutes of the October 13, 2015 meeting in your board packet. Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Do I have a motion to approve those?
Make a motion to approve minutes as presented. Support.
Moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting October 13, 2015. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Move along to the bills in your board packet. Questions on the bills? Do I have a motion to approve the bills?
Motion to approve minutes.
Moved and supported to approve the bills as presented. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. DPW report in your board packet. Any comment on your report, Jeff?
Look out for the monsoon.
The monsoon.
Rain coming
Yeah.
tonight.
I'm not sure we're gonna let you leave though.
The rain is coming. Look
I know,
out.
but we're not gonna let you leave.
Oh,
I don't think.
But if the monsoon comes, the leaves will leave.
The leaves will leave.
Be harder to vacuum. so.
Yes, that'd be
Thank you for your report. Police report. We didn't receive a written one. Do you have any comment, Chief?
Just that, I think I talked about last time, Halloween hours are 5 to 7, and probably a little extra patrol this weekend.
Excellent. Thank you for that report. Jake, your report.
So we'll start with some fairly disappointing news. As some of you probably know, we've been courting this company, PromoQuip, for the better part of a year now, about 10 months. And I got a call Tuesday afternoon on my way home that they had worked with some commercial builders that we had actually helped set them up with in the county, and they decided that a commercial building new was just out of their reach. So they decided, you know, their upfront costs would be $400,000 to $450,000. They didn't want to levy that kind of money. So they actually ended up finding another site, still in Montcalm County, which is positive. They found a vacant building in Lakeview. I do want to go on record as saying I didn't help them find it, but they did find it. Basically they found this empty building for under $60,000 that's essentially built to their suit. They need to put a new roof on it. They're going to be about $100,000 into that as opposed to $400,000+ into a new building. And that's going to be the story of them. So they're actually not going to locate in sand, which is disappointing because, you know, 3 weeks ago they were telling us that they were getting ready to move forward and they were finally taking this leap. And I think they got a little bit scared by the numbers, so they decided to go another direction. That being said, that kind of speaks to our development model that we've talked about a little bit, that it's hard for us to be competitive when it comes to attracting industrial and commercial investment because of the lack of building stock, the lack of developable property, and the high cost of building new. So I think, you know, I'm very disappointed. I wasn't overly surprised, other than the fact that they just told me they were going to start looking at building. So, you know, that's a disappointing thing for our East Main Street property. We need to revisit plans for that site. I'm going to be putting together some other concepts. I think low-density residential, we could probably market it that way. But one way or the other, I think the city should try to develop that site into something right now because we obviously aren't doing much with it. So. The community clock is up and covered, as you may have seen. We're looking forward to that event. That's this Thursday night at 6 o'clock. The Central Montcalm High School Band will be there. They're going to be doing some dedication music, and there will be some light refreshments served by the clock committee. So please do come to that. It'd be really nice to see the commission come down there and show their support, if at all possible. Let's see here, Dan's Dirt Works will be removing the 3 city-owned houses in early November, probably the first or second week in November. We're actually coming out a lot better on that than I anticipated. You know, we talked about a total investment of probably $50,000. We're actually right now only looking at about $32,000 after purchase and the contract demolition. So that's better than we expected. We might actually make a good chunk of that back when we sell those lots in the spring. Let's see here, we'll review the Vets Park concept tonight. The Parks and Recreation Committee will hold its kickoff meeting on November 12th. That will start our Department of Natural Resources Parks and Rec plan. Obviously, as you guys know, we've beat that dead horse quite a bit, but that'll allow us to get our Natural Resource Trust Fund grant application in before April 1st for the Stanton Veterans Memorial Park.
Did you say the 12th?
Yes.
Yeah, it says the 11th.
Yeah, that's a correction that I've made. The 11th is Veterans Day, which we will not be here, so it'll be the 12th. Okay. Let's see here. We held a progress meeting with Roe concerning the Vets Park. That gave us some really good next steps regarding our funding strategy. They're actually going to be sending their second phase proposals along with some private foundations and public grants that they know of that they think we should pursue. So that's good. The phone system installation started today. It should finish up tomorrow. That'll be excellent. We've had persistent and continuing problems with our phone system. We actually had a couple people calling in to check up on their rental inspections and let us know that they got that stuff done, which is very important. Obviously, we wouldn't want to assess any fees against them or have them recorded as not compliant, and they couldn't get through on the phones. So, you know, that's a serious issue. Still moving forward on our kickoff for the big meter project with Michigan Meter. That'll be a very large and time-consuming project, but it's going to be a great benefit to the city. So I should have details for that in the next couple of weeks. Charlie will be returning to work on the DPW in the beginning of November. Sounds like November 2nd. That's really great. He'll also be testing for his one of his water license certifications. So if you see him around town, be sure to wish him luck. And this is a big and sad announcement, but after serving for, I think, 4 years as Public Works Director, Jeff Main will be retiring from his position, starting effective November 6th. So I did want to publicly recognize him. Jeff has done a lot to improve the look of the city around town. He has a great attention to detail. He goes the extra mile for us, and I would say that he is one of the hardest working guys that we've had on the crew since I've been here, and maybe since I've been working. So I'd just like to thank him for the service publicly and let him know that we'll miss him. So, thanks for the service, Jeff.
If we let him leave.
I think we might have to be hard pressed to stop.
Make sure you want your tree yet.
I'm sure I'll get my tree.
That's what I got.
Thank you for your report. Any questions on Jake's report? We'll move along to the Vets Park final concept endorsement.
Okay, so I'm going to pull this up. For the public, I put a large 24 by 36 copy back there for you guys to view on your way out if you'd like, or you can stand up and view it now, that's fine, but I'm going to pull it up on the big board, so if I can. Maybe. Just wants to behave. So this is really, I'm very happy with what they've sent back for us. It is basically, you saw the 2 initial concepts they came up with. There we go. And this really allows us to incorporate the input that we got from the surveys that were completed during old-fashioned days, as well as during the community open house. They did some master plan stuff and kind of tried to incorporate some of what we're looking for in the master plan in the park planning. So what we're looking at really is they were able to, after further surveys, incorporate a 4-field display. This will be 200-foot foul lines, which is tournament play for fast pitch softball as well as Little League. That'll allow us to host large-scale tournaments. We're hoping anywhere from 12 to 25 teams. So when it comes to residual economic impact, that'll be huge for us, because imagine 12 teams with 12 players with all their parents and all their siblings. That's a big impact for a weekend. You have a 185-car plus or minus parking lot. We also hope to work out a pedestrian crossing with the Sheriff's Department on big tournament weekends, so having a deputy out there and allowing us to use their parking lot. That's all preliminary, obviously, but that would create, that would add another 300 parking spaces, so more than enough if we had that traffic control. Right here, it's a little blurry, so you have a pavilion here, both covered, both with water run to them, and both picnic facilities, barbecue facilities. Right along here, that's the existing playground that's already out there, you may have seen at Central Montcalm Elementary. Just for a point of reference, this is where the track is right now, that walking track, so that would be removed and then to make way for the parking, and replaced by this track, which we'll get to in a minute. So you have the 4-field complex, right in the center you'd have a community kind of pavilion right there. Right here you'd have concessions and restrooms. The reason for putting them right here is it'll actually allow us for tournaments, it'll allow the Central Montcalm Youth League or other tournament holders to have a gated entry. So they can actually register teams and charge tickets and things like that right there at the door. That was really clever, we hadn't looked at that before. This is all barrier-free, which is really important to recognize. So all right here is barrier-free parking, all along here would be handicap spaces. There's a curb right here, and you can access the whole facility without a single curb that's not ADA accessible. So that's really great. Coming over here, this is where the path starts. This is phase 1, and we'll talk a little bit more about the phasing. Right here you have stormwater retention coming off the fields, possibly a retaining wall right here. We'll have to see, it depends on the grading. But the pathway right here, this would be benches and exercise stations. Everywhere you see these small bump outs. And the path would be a paved path going through. This would be the Veterans Memorial that we're working towards. This is the highest point on in the whole property. So what it would allow us to do is create not only a Veterans Memorial, but also sort of a scenic overlook. It's got quite a bit of drop. There's a good 10 feet of drop between here and there, and then about 4 feet going the other way. So it's a nice kind of left alone place out in sort of the middle of the open. We can do a really kind of tranquil setting there. Going down a little ways, this is an amphitheater that is planned, and that's going to be excellent because it actually works into that grading, so it'll be great for acoustics. The only challenge that we're looking at is that the evening sun would be pointed at the stage, which could potentially be tough on the act. So we're looking at some sort of a decorative awning to go over the stair, or over the steps and the seating. That would be phase 2, and we'll talk about the phasing a little bit. So as you continue to follow the path, this path is just over a quarter mile and connects the Fred Meyer Heartland Trail to the rest of the amenities in the park. Right here is those documented wetlands that we talked about in one of our previous meetings. This is actually a composite boardwalk that would go right over those and create sort of a nice nature trail overlook environment. This is can you see that pale green line right here? That's the existing tree line. So some of this would be hedged back right here around the amphitheater, but imagine a wooded atmosphere all around that amphitheater, and then this path disappearing into the woods right around there. So that's kind of what we're looking at. After here, it gets much thicker, and you get into the real nature trail preserve. Back in here, in addition to the exercise stations, we also propose a 9-hole disc golf course, which, I mean, those can be done very inexpensively, so we haven't placed that in a phase yet, but you can get a disc golf course done for $1,000 a hole. So maybe less. I mean, it's as simple as the guys going back there with a brush hog and making the fairways and then putting in the posts and the boxes and everything. So all throughout here, we would have sort of a zigzagging disc golf course where people could be kind of getting off the trail and enjoying the woods a little bit more. Disc golf is great for all ages and abilities. It's a free event, or it's a free attraction that people have been statistically proven to travel for. So that's another economic development impact. So that's the phase 1 trail. It would come all the way back here. We would have a trailhead here with a small kiosk kind of giving some information, and we could put the different county publications, the forestry, conservation magazine, all that stuff in there. And then have some benches and things, and possibly restroom. So, you know, those are all kinds of things that we're looking at right now. It'll come back. But possibly a restroom. So that's kind of where it would connect to the trail. There's a pretty significant drop right here from a railroad cut. Back in the day, it was a rails to trails. So what we would be looking at doing is creating sort of a graded downslope over to the path and then a stop sign. So it would basically be another entryway onto the trail. Talking a little bit about phasing. Phase 1, substantial completion according to our lease, is the ball field facility and all the horizontal infrastructure associated with it. So that would be the ball fields, the parking lot, any of the lighting, and any of the sidewalks that go to the fields. So really phase 1 is the ball field complex. Everything you see that's right here over. You know, we kind of were joking when we were talking about it. Phase 1.5 is the path that connects the entirety of the park. And then we sort of consider phase 2 as filling in our infill amenities. So your disc golf course, your scenic overlooks over here, your amphitheater, your Veterans Memorial. Those are our phase 2 amenities. But we want this to be substantially completed beyond just the ball field complex by 2020. So what we're looking at now, we'll be, giving this to the people at the stakeholders meeting that has been helping us out. So the Trail Commission, the school, the Rotary, some other stakeholders that come around that table. We'll be showing this final concept to them to see what they think. But tonight what we'll be looking for is the City Commission's endorsement. If you guys see anything that you really wanted in there as a city that's not in there, if you have any questions about it, those kinds of things.
I think we should prioritize the restroom over there.
Well, and that's the thing, so it all depends on how we're gonna do it. So these, we're really hoping that we're gonna be able to get a gravity feed to our sewer system. Over there, it's a little bit harder, because we don't have any main infrastructure over there for the most part. So it would have to be a chamber toilet, so we'd have to be something where we have to pay to suck it out every so often. We have to figure out how to get a truck back there. Or we pay to have a porta john there. I mean, there's options, but, yeah, and that's something that we wanna look into.
Especially if you're, at some point, I'm not even saying, but if you're gonna have people golf playing back there, they're not gonna wanna run over here to use the restroom.
Yeah, they're probably gonna be
I mean,
using a lot of the trees and stuff.
Or even the amphitheater.
Well, keep in mind, this is only about 500 feet.
Right.
So,
Well, and
So
that
reasonable.
direction too, if you suppose you wanted to go walk after you
Right.
listen to whatever's going on there and get to the other end of the property and
Sure.
your
No.
concessions catch up with you.
yeah, ideally, it would definitely be, that's nice. Ideally, you definitely would want some sort of restroom amenity there. Keep in mind also though, like the McDonald's on the trail is like a half a mile south of there. So if you're a cyclist, it may not be such a huge deal, but for people actually using the backcountry part of the park, we might want them there. There is still interest in procuring this parcel up here over the course of time. That's kind of what we call phase 2.5. So showing that we really are building this out and it is a community amenity that's being widely used, create a regional attraction like we want it to. We're hoping that'll cultivate further interest in selling that parcel from that stakeholder.
Well, we'd also talked about using the East Main Street property for soccer fields, so
I mean,
it
that,
would make sense if you could do that in this area, then.
absolutely, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, to give you guys an idea, if we did have soccer fields here that were high quality, we could draw like AYSO, like American Youth Soccer Organization tournaments. There was one in Lakeview the same time as Summerfest, and that turned into a huge debacle just because I think there was something like 1,500 kids with all those teams. It was a huge tournament, and that really created parking issues. But they do draw very large tournaments, which again, it made Summerfest very much inflated from what it usually is, because there are people that were in town anyway, so they went and checked Summerfest out. So that does create that residual economic impact that we're looking for. So, any other questions before I move on? Go ahead, Carl.
I would think, since it's called Veterans Memorial Park,
Mm-hmm.
you would get a better buy-in from stakeholders if you would include the Veterans Memorial section as part of phase 1.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We discussed that. The thing is, and we might do some of that phasing for the Veterans Memorial, like some of the scenic outlook and some of the seating and stuff. And keep in mind, Brooke Walters is one of the memorials that is interested in relocating here. But we also want to put in a signature memorial, and they're quite expensive. So over the course of time, unless we were to build pretty much everything we've got here, it would just be a memorial kind of sitting out. The other thing that is important to remember is every component, every aspect of this park is going to be geared towards Veterans Memorial or appreciation of service. So all of these fields, as well as the concessions, the pavilions, all those are supposed to have wayfinding fact sheets about different things about the armed services throughout the course of history, information about soldiers' organizations, Wounded Warrior Project. All those kinds of things are supposed to be incorporated into the design. So specifically the fields, most of all the fields. So we, at one point we wanted to do 5 fields, that was just not tenable. So what we were talking about doing, and all this is again not finalized, obviously naming each one of these after a branch of service, and then having the championship fields be the ones at the D Hill Break Park. So that way when we're having these large tournaments of 12 to 25 teams, we're forcing people through town. So they're starting at this end, they're coming down through the break park to play the final games down here, and we dedicate those 2 fields down there to Hotel Company 226 or 227. and that'll allow us to kind of come full circle with that Veterans Memorial aspect. I anticipate some of this will be completed in phase 1. Phase 1.5, as we call it, is kind of the trail. I would lump some of the immediate entities into this phase 1.5. But the final large amenity we want to put out there, we're talking something along the lines of like a marble statue, an obelisk, something like that, that's actually pretty high value, a reflecting pool. That's going to take time to fundraise for, and we'll probably have to do a lot of private fund capital campaigning for that, I would anticipate. But I do think you're right, the whole park is supposed to be geared towards Veterans Memorial. The pathway is supposed to have exercise stations with different, military training exercises, calisthenics, all that kind of stuff. So that whole thing is supposed to be geared towards the military and Veterans Affairs.
Is all this park going to have lighting throughout?
Yeah, so we anticipate having all the main amenities here lit, some lighting right here that's run off of it's going to be a lot of horizontal infrastructure. We want the pathway lit going back to the tree line at the very least. If we can afford it, and if possible, we'd like to have it lit throughout at night.
On ball fields, are they going to have night lights so that night games?
Not during phase 1. They would effectively add a third of the cost. So what we'd really be focusing on is getting the infrastructure in, and then trying to focus in the further phases of the further years of development, getting those night lights in, whether it's through private sponsorship or fundraising, or like the city levying those funds through Parks and Rec funding. But yeah, initially, no, we're not planning on having lit fields. They're very expensive. Any questions? Okay, so what we're looking at right here, if we were to have a pot of money tomorrow, we just had a private wealthy Stanton citizen, if you're out there, please come forward. Come forward and fund all of this, and we do get started this spring. We're looking at about $900,000, which is slightly over, well, considerably over what we wanted to spend initially. That's why we're kind of phasing everything in. This is still very contingent on external funding. We plan on writing, about a $285,000 Parks and Rec plan. That funding could get awarded in 2017, but probably won't be ready until the 2018 construction season, as we've discussed. It's just a long, senseless process. We've also looked at military foundations, the MLB Foundation, the Meyer Foundation, Consumers Foundation, Homeworks Foundation, several other private foundations, and then we also would like to do a capital campaign countywide to try to get other stakeholders, other communities that are going to obviously use this. If created, this will be unlike pretty much anything else in the county. So it's something that we'd really like to promote as a regional sports park. Any questions? Comments? Okay. So what we'd be looking for tonight then is just a motion to endorse the final concept. Basically telling Roe, yeah, this is what we want to run with. We're ready for, your second phase of proposal. If you remember correctly, they put an additional proposal out there for, I think it was $9,700 to create a parks master plan for this site. That's essentially what we're looking at right here, along with a bunch of data and surveying that they got done for us. So, they're pretty much done with that. They're saying this is what we came up with, this is what we know we can do based on the surveys, based on the space that you've got, this is what we can get done.
Do I have a motion to approve to endorse the final park concept?
So moved.
Moved and supported to endorse the final park concept. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We need to set a public hearing for the DDA development plan and TIF plan.
Yeah, so it's actually three things. It would be the Downtown Development Authority's bylaws, which they approved this evening, their development and TIF financing plan, which they also endorsed this evening. They'll have some additional information coming to them, some more attachments to that plan. Basically how much TIF capture we anticipate collecting, some major project details, those kinds of things. And then also the ordinance to approve those plans. So it'll need to be a review of the actual plan itself, a review of the bylaws, and then review and adoption of the ordinance to approve those.
We just need one public hearing for that purpose.
I believe so.
Correct?
Yeah, the way I read the act is that you require a public hearing for those.
Okay.
The bylaws don't.
And you want to set that the second meeting in November?
Yep, the first meeting in November, 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now,
Yep.
okay. which is, what's the date, November
11.
11th? No, 12th it would be, yep.
No, that's the Thursday, isn't it? It'd be
That
November
is
10th.
10th, okay. All right. Do I have a motion to set the public hearing regarding the DDA development plan and TIF capture review, as well as the adoption of the ordinance to approve those as, and the bylaws? You don't have to repeat it, just move it.
So supported.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to set the public hearing for November 10th, 7 PM, regarding the review of the DDA development and TIF capture plan, the bylaws, and the ordinance to approve those. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any public comment? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Mayor, I know I'm
Yes,
not
Carl.
necessarily public, but
Sure you are.
I just want to reiterate and add my public thanks to Jeff for all the work that he's done.
I support that.
And,
Support that, too.
On behalf of the commission, seemingly, it seems as though we all appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
If you should change your mind, we'll accept that too.
Any further public comment? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support? Moved and supported to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, enjoy staying here. Meeting adjourned.
This one?
Yes, I will.
No, I mean, a couple days.
Yes, I have.
That's it.
What,